Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey. A young man took a new job as a carpet layer. His boss was a Christian and warned him that there were two rules: no bad language and no smoking on the job. Well, fair enough. He was a good worker with the best of intentions, however, so was sure he would make his new boss proud of him. The first day went so well that he finished laying a carpet in an elegant house ahead of schedule. "I'll just go outside now and have a cigarette," he thought. Feeling in his breast pocket, however, he discovered he'd lost his pack of cigarettes. "It must have fallen out as I was leaning over, laying the carpet," he thought. Oh, the poor fellow looked all over the room without success. Eventually, the woman of the house noticed his concern and asked what was wrong. "Well, you haven't seen my pack of cigarettes, have you?" he asked. "It must have fallen out of my pocket." "Oh, no, I'm afraid not," she responded before returning to the kitchen. But moments later, the poor fellow had an awful shock. There in the middle of the living room was just a little lump in the carpet. "What on earth can I do?" he thought. "I can't rip up the carpet just for a pack of cigarettes." And then, glad he was alone, he took a hammer, crawled out to the middle of the carpet, and gave the lump 3 good blows. The lump all but disappeared. Total success, he thought, as he brushed up the pile on the carpet and put the hammer back in his toolkit. Just then the lady of the house returned, all excited. "I found it," she exclaimed. "Found what?" asked the young man anxiously. "I found your pack of cigarettes. Here it is. It had fallen behind the couch." "Oh, by the way, you haven't seen my canary, have you?" Now here was a good man with the best of intentions who failed to come up to the required standard. In the Bible, in the Gospel of Mark, there's a story about a man with good intentions who thought he was up to God's standard required. It goes like this. As Jesus started on his way, a man ran up to him and fell on his knees before him. "Good teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "Well, you know the commandments," Jesus continued. "You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not give false testimony, you shall not defraud, honor your father and mother." "But teacher," he declared, "all these I have kept since I was a boy." Jesus looked at him and loved him. "But one thing you lack," he said. "Go, sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." At this, the man's face fell. He went away sad because he had great wealth. He went away sad. So here was an apparently upright man who thought he'd kept the 10 Commandments since boyhood. He had good intentions, he wanted to be right with God, but he was under the delusion that he could inherit eternal life on the basis of his good works. In response, Jesus quoted the 5 commandments, which say, in effect, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." In so doing, Jesus showed him that however good he thought he was not good enough to merit eternal life. In fact, nobody is. Jesus put his finger on this man's particular hang-up that was preventing him from walking with God wholeheartedly, his obsession with wealth accumulation. Did he really love his neighbor as himself? If so, he could prove it by selling his property and giving the money to the poor. Now, making money is not wrong in itself, of course, but it had become this man's idol, representing his pride of accomplishment. And ironically, this obsession with money made it impossible for him to keep even the first commandment, which was to let nothing be more important to him than God. He was not willing to meet the one requirement Jesus gave him and turn his whole life over to God. This doesn't mean that all believers should sell their possessions. Most of the followers of Jesus didn't sell everything. No, but we must not let anything that we have or desire to have keep us from following Jesus fully. Money must be our servant, not our master. Two phrases jump out at me in this anecdote. One is that Jesus looked at him and loved him. I believe that's how he sees you and me. He loves us. The other is that the pious man went away sad. He chose to be unhappy and keep his earthly wealth rather than be poor and have treasure in heaven. His good intentions did nothing for him. Like the carpet layer, he wasn't as good as he thought he was. There's only one way to be right with God. That is to have faith in Jesus Christ, who said that everyone who believes in him would not perish, but have eternal life. The process begins with our recognizing that however good we may think we are, we fall short of God's standard and therefore need to depend on what Jesus has done for us by his substitutionary death, not on what we do for him. After all, if people could obtain eternal life on the basis of their good works, Jesus would never have needed to go to the cross. Right? And thank you for tuning in to Village Church Connections.